What is the best way to engage more young people to vote?
I think it starts with teaching them that they're micro level interactions and talking to people and voting does actually make a difference, because as a society we're taught that we're just a number, but if we can just spread the word about how our political views align, we can find what's the best solution to the problems we're facing here in Canada. So I think just having that discussion is most important, and then using your vote to best support what it is you believe in.
Well, first of all, you need to start using the platforms that they use. I mean, young people are not watching television anymore. They're not watching the news for their political information. They're going online. They're going on social media. So places like Instagram, Discord, Twitch, even in some cases, Reddit, Tumblr. Maybe not Tumblr so much, but my point is essentially this, is that young people are not disinterested in politics as many people might assume. They're actually very interested in politics, especially the more theoretical side of it. It's just that we're in a little bit of a lull right now because the people who are running the country, running the media, are older generally, and as a result, they're not as familiar with the mediums young people tend to communicate.
I think the young people today are looking for grassroots movements. I think they're looking for ways for things to be more affordable, and I think maybe having conversations about supporting our youth could get our youth more involved. You know, we talk about a lot of big things all the time, which we have to do in government, but it's also, you know, maybe it's not as accessible to people who are more focused on whether or not they can afford to pay their rent than you know, what decisions are being made at a federal level for the army.
A lot of it is maybe like the lack of education or like the lack of what to do exactly. I know like a big concern for me is I don't necessarily always know what I'm voting for, so I kind of stray away from it because you don't want to just pick randomly. So if there was more like tools and like easier ways to like kind of know what each thing represents and like what we're doing with it, I think that would be better. Maybe that's something we need to bring into schools.
Try and teach more of it in schools, I think, just so they have an understanding of it, and get them involved a little more in it, or have some kind of program in the school that they can learn more about politics.
In the school system, they take on a position as, when I went to school there was, and so we learned how democracy worked. We learned how you vote, and if you don't vote, then you really shouldn't have a say. And that's putting it back on the education system, but it's not necessarily putting it on the teachers. And we all learn how to have a voice by voting, by protesting, by being an advocate on something. And I think our young people need to get beyond social media to express themselves.
So it's a matter of involving young people in the decisions. It can't be just an old person's thing. I don't know how you do that. But if they're not involved and realize how it affects their future, they're not going to vote.
The decisions we make now are going to affect these people more than it's going to affect me. You know, so that's why they need to get involved. What do we need to do? More younger people involved in politics. Potentially, you know, getting younger people's ideas to the places where those ideas can actually come into action.
So I think listening to what the concerns are of the younger generation will push them to vote for somebody, because I think a lot of people right now who are younger don't really identify with anybody, particularly because they don't feel like their questions or concerns are being answered.
However, to get them to vote, they got to find it within themselves to get interested in politics and understand that the leaders that make up society are only as good as you let them be, more or less, right? So you have to understand that you got to be proactive in your involvement, and that the onus is on the individual.
Honestly, probably social media. Like, that's the most common thing like young people use. So it's like there are pros and cons to it, and being able to use it as a pro would be pretty good.
Well, obviously, simple answers, pushing out like the voting, where to vote, to like the social media platforms that we all use, because we're obviously always.
I see like the MPs and stuff like posting on TikTok and stuff, and like I see that because I don't really like watch the news that much. I don't read the newspaper that much, so I don't really like keep up with the news that way. So like if they like put out their like what they have to say like on like social media platforms that like we use, we're more likely to see it and more likely to like hear the message that might get people out to vote more.
I don't really know what these people are running for and what they do, and I think making it more engaging for younger people, like more interesting and more accessible, and maybe like more young people to represent as well, because a lot of politicians are not in their 20s right now. Yeah, I would say that, because it's not really relatable for a lot of people. They don't know why they should be voting.
I don't know. I mean, I have young adult children and discuss that with them, and I'm not sure what the answer to that is, but I really hope you go out and vote, but be informed first.